Hello friends, Mo here from the editing desk, just checking in quickly before we start to let you know that there is a little bit of a crackle on specifically my audio channel. Nothing so much as to distract from the quality content we're putting out there, but I just want to let you know that you don't need to mess around with your own audio setup. This one is on me. So without any further ado, let's get stuck in. Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 21. I am your extremely hungover host, Mo, and I'm joined, as always, by my healthy and hale friends, Jody.
Привет, comrades.
Whoa, and Billy.
Guten Abend.
Well done, boys. plenty of languages to rifle through for the duration of the series, but
I don't know, I'm running out of ones I can pronounce, much like the names in this book series.
On theme. As I mentioned in the intro, I am quite under the weather, so you boys are going to have to do all the heavy lifting, ask all the difficult questions, and follow up with intellectual and thought-provoking answers, okay?
Dear Lord.
No, that's not my job in this show
Pass.
at all.
I mean, let's be honest, I never really do that either. Okay, should we just get stuck in?
Mark's was to get this done.
I'm ready to plow straight ahead.
Shortest episode ever.
Callbacks, quickly.
Okay, well, since you asked so nicely, let's do some callbacks. Number one, we asked who is it that discovered how to make Quaindiar? Was it Egwene or Elaine? It was Egwene. She's
All right.
the one that rediscovers how to make Quaindiar, and she's the one that goes out on the boat to quote unquote freeze the chain across the harbor. Now, are you guys ready to get your minds blown?
Go for it.
Sweet, let's do it.
We were sort of talking about how many sisters in the tower seemed, or just, Aes Sedai seemed to be of the Black Ajah, like what a high percentage of the sisters that we have read about are Black Ajah, because we...
Have you gone looking for the fact? Have you found how many?
I do. Because a certain brown sister did the heavy lifting and made a comprehensive list of Aes Sedai that are Black Ajah. Varen kept a list of her own. So at the time of the story, there were about 950 Aes Sedai.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those sisters would you guys each guess are members of the Black Ajah?
I'm going to go with, you're very surprised by this, so it's a high number, and 66%.
Okay, no.
I'm going like 400 of those.
Okay, well, prepare to have your minds not blown then.
All right, you shouldn't have started like that then.
But I mean, it's 204 sisters
All right.
on
Yeah.
Varen's list, right? And I think they mentioned in the story, when I was reading about Varen's list, they mentioned in the story that the list turned out to be extremely accurate, and that I think there were only 6 other sisters that Varen did not have on her list that were later confirmed to be Black Ajah. Wow. So that's more than 21% of all the sisters. It's the biggest Ajah.
Out of all of them.
Yeah.
Hey?
Interesting.
I mean, that's wild. I was blown away. Like, that is so many. I mean, I shouldn't be, considering what I just said about how we're often talking about how many there are in the story. But yeah, super high percentage. So like Swan and the other sisters being sort of indignant about the fact that, oh my God, there really are dark friends in the tower. Wake up and smell the coffee, ladies. They outnumber you.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just on the topic of Black Ajah again, we were talking about the concept in the Black Ajah of a heart, and how many
13?
sisters are in a heart. We thought it was 13. It's actually only 3. 3 sisters in a heart, and each one of them knows one sister in another heart that the other 2 don't know about. So it's this extremely compartmentalized chain of communication between them. So there are fewer opportunities for people to leak. So that just makes Varen's list that much more impressive.
Yeah. Sorry, what is the significance of the heart again? Because I actually can't remember.
It's like a terrorist cell. Well,
It's just an organizational unit, like it's a
Okay.
unit of sisters that the three sisters in that heart know of each other as Black Ajah. And then each one of them knows about one other one in a separate heart.
Okay, I'm with you.
So, there's very little opportunity for them to spill the beans on who all the Black Ajah sisters are. So Varen's list is, like, I don't know how she went about it, but she made that list over years and years and years and years and proved to be extremely effective again.
I wonder who gave her that mission.
I think she's a bit of a rogue agent. Like, she probably just took that upon herself. There is no one from the shadow that would want her to go root out and identify everyone in the Black Ajah.
No, but I mean, maybe one of the prior Amyrlin Seats were like, no, there's a weasel in the chicken nest. We need to root it out, and gave Varen like an 80-year task. Or maybe she was a novice when it came out, like much like our own
novices,
heroes
yeah.
in the story, at the right time in the wrong place.
But Varen never shares it with anyone. Varen never shares it with anyone right up until the end when she spills the beans in her final hour after she's taken the poison. She hands over all her knowledge. So yeah, just big numbers.
Yes.
Lots of Black Ajah sisters around. We were talking about the murder of the Grey Man in the tower quite a lot, trying to figure out, what Slayer's involvement in that was. And I went and I found the actual chapter and read the chapter in Winter's Heart. Slayer is busy killing two other people at the same time, like driving daggers into their chests. And while he's thinking about it, he thinks about how it's different from when he killed a Grey Man or a Grey Man before, and specifically one in the White Tower as well. So it's like Slayer himself recounting the act of killing the Grey Man in the tower. No mention of who sent him, what his orders were, anything like that. I've read some theories that, Sheriam was not working with him or anyone that was, responsible for that murder, that it is more likely that it was Masana that was sort of orchestrating that attack within the tower. And later in the story, Sheriam, you don't see this, but Sheriam recounts finding a dead grey woman in her bed, sort of as a warning to butt out of this. Don't ask any questions. Yeah, heavy. So Sheriam is, with all that suspicion cast on her, more than likely completely innocent of anything in that specific crime.
Oh, yeah. Not completely innocent. But in this specific instance.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
Jody, you and I, we recalled a link to a video or a reading we did somewhere that hypothesized that Guer Amalasan was a previous incarnation of the dragon.
Yeah.
And I went and I tried to find it, and it was popular YouTube Wheel of Time content creator Nablus that has a video about it.
That's where I watched it, yeah.
Yeah, he went over some of the theories that were posted on an old website pre-Reddit days on Theoryland or something like that. And his conclusion towards the end was that it was kind of plausible. Like he didn't shoot it down immediately. But after I did more reading about it, I am less convinced. I just don't think it would have happened. One of the main criticisms against it is, why would the pattern spin out the dragon and then also Arthur Hawkwing to be his foil, like this powerful Taveran to counteract a false dragon? Doesn't make any sense. Rand later in the story, when he's fully actualized, Dragon Reborn, he gets all of Lews Theron's memories and stuff, like all his previous lives, and there's no mention of Amalasan or his conflict with Arthur Hawkwing or anything like that. So I am now even more convinced than before that is just a fun thought experiment, but unlikely to be true.
Right.
He straight up doesn't satisfy any of the Careerthon cycle, prophecies either, which I've also read about now, which turns out it's a collection of foretellings, all sort of grouped together, but from before, during, and after the War of Power, which was the war at the end of the Age of Legends, when the ball was drilled and the shadow emerged.
All right.
Then there were a couple of translations I quickly had to do. One is a translation from Afrikaans. I think, I can't even remember which one of us it was, but we spoke about Slayer leaving the scene of the crime, and we said he vies. That just means he leaves for our international audience. And then the other one is a translation of a Villiism, where he spoke about Matt being this sort of a gambling layabout in the depths of Feldara, throwing dice at shoes, which would have made no sense to anybody that didn't know that Villy and I had invented a drinking game called Shoe Dice, in which you throw dice at shoes. So, Vil, I don't know if you used that intentionally or not, but that is the shoe reference, folks. That's where that comes from.
I didn't even know that. I just really, you were worried about running out of languages for our greetings, but you could just invent your own shit later on if necessary. So it's okay.
Yes, absolutely. And then I had one final thought on our Darkhound discussion, and that was when Perrin arrives in Jarrah and he smells that smell, that deeply offensive or something that smells wrong. Villy, you and I immediately thought, was that Paden Fane? When I listened to our episode, I heard me reading the text, and it says specifically that Perrin did not recognize it, when we know that Perrin knows exactly what Paden Fane smells like because he's tracked him before. So it was not Fane. So that's another one in the Darkhound column. So that's it for corrections this week.
Is that it? Really?
Yeah.
That was
I think Moritz is playing with us fully. It's a
toying
trap.
with our emotions.
It's a trap.
So where did we end off? We were still in the tower. Matt had just been healed. The girls have been given their punishments. And now, Matt had not been healed yet. Sorry,
No,
Matt's not been healed yet.
The girls had been summoned to come witness Matt's healing, and that's where we left off. I think Sheriam came and chased Elida out of Nynaeve's room, and Nynaeve, Elaine, and Egwene all go down to witness Matt's healing, and that's where we pick up this week on chapter 18, called, imaginatively, Healing. So, Villy, why don't you recount that one for us?
And if it's really healing now or not, we're not sure, but it's called healing. So Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine are walking through what I wrote down, the guts of the tower. So I assume they've got all these domes and layers of bedrock where they keep
in the bowels.
In the bowels. And they've been taken to where they're going to help or observe the healing, or rather the removing of Matt's taint through the dagger. And even now already, this whole hunting the Black Ajah thing is tickling their heads. And it's all that Egwene can think about. Like, this is where they were when they stole the Terangriel and tried to take the Angriel and Sa'angriels. And this is where it went down, and even down to the thought, like, maybe Sheriam's leading us into, we could be led into a trap. So she's very much still, I think, the right person for the job at the moment. She's questioning everything, and Nynaeve, that's just naturally what comes to her. So they eventually come to where there's some lights flickering, and they were going to a room, big open domed room, and there's a big table. Matt's lying, just his shoes and his coat's taken off. Now the table's long. They've got Swan standing at the head of the table, at Matt's head, and Leanne on the end of his feet. And there's room for 4 sisters. Now, there was a couple of them there, and I managed to catch some names. So Swan, Leanne, Sheriam joins them, Varen, Sarafel, Alana. Oh, here we go. Anaya. Anaya, sorry, that's my handwriting, not just and Brenda's name came out later after this. So there was a few that we don't know, but one was a white. Any which way, they told to just stand against the wall, observe. And Swan then takes out a case, and there's a little red lace or red velvet covering it. And about the length of our forearm, and engraved rod, or what should I rather say, wand, that looks like ivory or bone, whatever. But that's now a Sa'angriel that she's taken out there. And the healing then of Matt starts. He immediately, his hand grasps the dagger. Like, you can see there's like this inner battle going on in him all of a sudden. Like, the evil taint is fighting to stay with him and hold on to his body. And Matt then all of a sudden starts blaring out in the old tongue. It's some of it translates again to the for the honor of the Red Eagle, I think it was.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
There was a lot of that, and commanding what later. Well, we'll get to that. But through this now, they can see his hand eventually. And then even at this stage is thinking Egwene is thinking that they're murdering him, that they're going to kill him. And for the first time, and probably the last time, we'll see Nynaeve be the voice of reason. And it's like, no, we actually have to trust them. They have to do their job, leave them. But now the power that's going through these 10 sisters all around Matt is causing like massive white light. But all three girls are trembling because they are just drawn, Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine, to want to now just join in to this weave, like feel like they're being pulled literally forward.
Doesn't Nynaeve like she takes a step forward and stops herself?
And stops herself. Yeah, so it's quite interesting that they were so drawn to it. And at this stage now, Matt's hand is off the dagger, and you can almost see like air is fighting it away. He's trying to hold, and he's still blaring out, and then eventually they throw some curse towards the Aes Sedai, and you hear a tearing leather sound, and the dagger has been torn off his belt and is now floating like Ghost Dagger in the middle of above sort of Matt, I would assume. And one of the Aes Sedai then get a big, heavy-looking black box, like I can only sort of describe as like carbon type box or something, and some bright tongs. I mean, some good wives' tongs, and plucks the dagger out of the sky and sticks it into the filthy thing into the box and close it up, and just like that, everything's gone. And everyone's calm, and Matt all of a sudden just every muscle goes to water, and he's passed out. If he's sleeping like Moritz wished he was sleeping now.
Oh, sweet, sweet sleep.
And even his breathing is better. And Nynaeve shuts, or I can't even remember now if it's Egwene or Nynaeve, like, is it done? Is he healed? And they sort of get into the discussion from Swan's side, like, he healed, not really, because they can see he's not really healed, but that was a different type of healing. So literally cutting out the taint of Shadow Logoth out of him.
Yeah.
But he's out for it, and they were all just very worried. Let me just quickly, this is where the translation comes in now. So he said something at that stage. Elaine started asking Mother, like, what did he say? He was speaking in the old tongue. And she's like, no, it's just commanding soldiers and in a battle 2,000 years ago or even further before Arthur Hawkwing. And Nynaeve then jumps in like, no, there was something about Aes Sedai in that, and there was no Aes Sedai there. And she's immediately like, oh, caught Swan off guard there. And she's like, no, it was what was the words now? I don't have it here, and I probably won't.
I'm not your meat or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not your meat, Aes Sedai.
Basically shunning them.
Yeah, and then she was asked, but wasn't Manetheren the Tower's ally? It's strange. It's like, yes, well, Manetheren was, but it can't be for every man. Like, there's different people in different places. And yeah, that's when the one sister gets ordered to take Matt to his room to rest and make sure he's got food. And Egwene then asks if they can please stay with him if there's still a chance that he can die, because they said he might even still die. And she's like, no, you've got work to do, and gave her a look, and she knew it wasn't scrubbing of pots. It was
yes.
It was more important work, which they are already very much into. And that's our chapter.
Yeah. Anything to add there, Joe?
Not much. No, that pretty much covers it. Matt's healed. The end.
They do, I specifically checked this, they do use the word healing with a capital H when they talk about what they're doing with Matt. So it's still odd to me that there isn't a yellow sister leading the flows, because Swan says to everyone, attend to me, I will meld the flows. And she uses, and it's Swan that wields that wand is the most powerful Sir Angriel they have in the tower. And when like everything is bathed in light as the circle is joined and they're all sort of like, channeling at the same time, this wand is like a beaming white light in the middle of all of that. And what struck me was, like you were saying, Phil, like how drawn to it the girls were, especially Egwene, because we're in her point of view here, and she seems like it's like a drug, right? Like she is more than just a little enticed to embrace it. Yeah, it was a pretty hardcore channeling exercise. I mean, 10 sisters with the most powerful sangreal.
That's what I wanted to ask. How many sisters were there? 10, you say?
10,
Plus Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elaine would have made it
13.
13.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Maybe that's why they were drawn so strongly to create that circle of 13.
Maybe.
Not just because it was channeling.
Hmm.
Ooh, Theoryland.
Here we go.
Callbacks for next week.
Egwene says, light, it's so strong. It's so wonderful. And she then thinks she alone could channel half of what 10 Aes Sedai with the Sangreal can channel.
Yes.
Like when she looks at what she feels like she can channel half of what they're channeling. That's how powerful Egwene is.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's not even Nynaeve.
And I was about to say, Nynaeve's even stronger than that. Wow.
Yeah. So, and I mean, the three of them, Elaine is also quite powerful. She's probably on the same level as Egwene.
Yes.
So the three of them standing there are like more than a match for all 10 sisters in that room with the Sangreal, which is a cool thought.
This just made me think of then Book 9's Nynaeve and Rand with the Kuden Kal. How much power must have been flowing then? Wow.
Totally. That's why Rand goes to Nynaeve.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hey, I did also enjoy Nynaeve like only as an afterthought calling Swan mother. Like she's still just Nynaeve. Nynaeve gonna Nynaeve. All right. So then let's move on to chapter 19, Awakening, Jody.
Awakening, yes, indeed. We join Matt as he opens his eyes in his luxurious 5-star hotel room with lots of explanation of how gilded things are with leaves and cornices and the baseboards. I've been watching a lot of Reno shows lately. Those property brothers. Oh, man. I also forgot to mention, a couple of weeks ago, I went to a wolf park. And I'm now officially a wolf brother. I mentioned it to you guys, but I didn't mention it on the podcast. This is important news, people.
I can see your eyes quite nicely there.
Yeah, no, there we go. You see the yellow?
Nah, not
it's
yet.
kind of faded. Yeah, I've got to go back. So anyway, yeah, it was great fun. It's a wolf sanctuary here in Spain, and we went to visit, took the kids. It was awesome. And they have this part, where you come up close to the fence, and then the wolves, because they're out like running wild. And to get them to come closer, the guide has like a bucket of kibble, of like dog pebbles or whatever you call them. And then she shakes it, and then they come running. And I remember, like, by the third time she was shaking it, I was thinking, we come, brother. I was like, yeah.
For the kibbles.
For the kibbles. So anyway, yes, wolves, awesome. But now back to old Matt, who is just awakening. His memories are all fuzzy and confused, and facts mixed with dreams. He doesn't know what's what. Obviously, the guy's had some rough time. He remembers bits and pieces, and this is where we get the holes in his memory that get filled. And I have questions about that in a moment. But the first words out of his mouth are in the old tongue, and they spark a memory of a battle long ago. And I'm wondering if this is the exact same battle that he was mentioning while he was being healed, because it was also 2,000 years ago, and it's for the honor of the Red Eagle, for Manetheren, and all that stuff. And he was leading. I mean, it's a whole page and a half in the book, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But it's basically him and a bunch of lancers, and he's leading an army, and he's got the heart. There's also another mention of the heart.
Yeah.
But anyway, him leading the cavalry in an ancient battle. But whatever. Now he's fluent in the old tongue. So his memories also start coming back to him about Moraine and Aes Sedai and him being sick. He remembers that, and Varen was bringing him back to be healed. He remembers the dagger. He remembers Shana Logoth, and all these things are starting to come back to him. So he gets up. He decides, all right, he's got to find out where the fuck he is. He knows that he's in some rich place. That's all he can remember, because he looks at around him. Obviously, he's like, okay, this is money. Somebody's got money.
You can feel it in the mattress. That's the first place.
Yes. And it's typical Matt to like notice that there's money here. How do I get it?
Yes, one of the things he goes for in the cupboard is his purse with his 2 silver pieces in it. He could turn that into some more money in a place like this. He could be rich.
Yeah.
All right. So he gets up and he goes over to the cupboard, to the wardrobe, to get dressed. He's toting around like a fucking toddler, and he sees himself in the mirror because he's still very weak, and he's still got this his gaunt face. He's still like looks like a skeleton walking, but the skin's clearing up a little bit, and the black rings around his eyes have gone. So yeah, he just needs to get his strength back, and he is as hungry as a wolf. So the Aes Sedai have actually left a tray of food for him. It's apparently enough for 4 people, which for people who have read this book, that's not enough. Already it's gonna go, and it's about time that and it's around about this time when he sees the food and he comes and sits down, he realizes, okay, he's in Tar Valon, must be, because this is where Varen said they were going to bring him, and that all makes sense. And obviously if he's here, then they must have used the one power on him to heal him, and he doesn't dig that. He doesn't like being touched by the one power, as many normal folks would feel the same.
Matt has a recurring aversion to it, and it even like manifests in that previous chapter when that person whose memories he was channeling, is sort of shunning the Aes Sedai. Like he wants nothing to do with them or the one power, and that is a recurring theme for Matt until he gets a medallion that actually allows him to avoid being channeled at.
Yes. Also, the guy that he's remembering the memories that he has is someone who's also known as a gambler and plays his luck a lot.
Yes.
So
yes.
I want to know who that is. Do we ever find out? Callback, I suppose, for next week, unless you already have this answer.
Thanks,
Moritz.
Joe.
I'll do the callback for this one, all right?
Okay, thank you.
I'll take the load off your shoulders a bit. So yeah, he sits down in front of the tray. It's piled high with like everything imaginable: roast beef and potatoes and peas and bread. And I thought that maybe it was breakfast, but there was a jug of wine. But then I remembered that maybe, listen, who cares? The guy almost died. Give him some wine for breakfast. And also, he might have woken up in the middle of the day.
But there was a stop. I'm not sure there if there was wine. But when he reached for it, it was empty, or did he already unknowingly
already drank it?
He drank it.
Okay, good on you.
Yeah.
I think he drinks all the milk, all the wine, he eats all the roast beef, he eats everything.
Yeah,
like
he's
mops
picking up the crumbs off the table and everything. Yeah.
Still feeling hungry. Oh,
Still feeling hungry. Yeah. So yeah, he wolfs down the food, all while mumbling it to himself. Now, this is basically a recap for us as readers and a recap for him about everything that's been going on and where he's been and what he's done. So there's a lot of exposition here. And if he thinks to himself about Rand, he thinks about Egwene, he thinks about Nynaeve. Strangely, he doesn't think about Perrin. Like, fuck Perrin, who cares? That guy can take care of himself, I suppose. I went back and I double checked, and I was thinking, because I was writing down all these people's names, thinking, wait a minute, what about Perrin? Double check, no Perrin.
Matt might not know anything about what Perrin is going through. Rand is channeling. He's the Dragon Reborn. That's pretty important. The girls are becoming Aes Sedai. To Matt, Perrin might just be still good old Perrin.
Yeah, he's probably fine. He's all right.
Yeah.
All right.
Little does he know.
Because he does think about Perrin just a little bit later in the chapter.
Does he?
Mm.
All right. So he even remembers specifically the ruby from the dagger, and he kind of idly thinks to himself and wonders, like, I wonder if the Aes Sedai will give me that ruby, and then goes off on this whole tangent about taking it back to the 2 rivers and trading it to the Coplans, I think it was, so that he could buy their farm and then have the biggest farm, and then realizing, like, whoa, like those dreams are so old. And
I had such a chuckle at this. Like, the only way you get a stubborn person out of Immerfield, buy all his property and force him to move with wealth.
And if that ruby's still cursed, well, fuck them. They were assholes anyway. Nobody likes those Coplans. I've got their land and I've cursed them. Yay.
Well, he has the thought that he also has more rights to it than the Aes Sedai. He's like, surely I have more claim to it than they do. So there's still like a remnant of his desire for it that I felt was being portrayed there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a deep connection. It's only just
if only he saw what it took to remove it from him.
Yeah, how much they channeled into him.
Yeah, you don't want to do that again, buddy. If you can, avoid that. So yeah, then he realizes that those dreams he had of owning the biggest farm in Emmersfield, like, that's gone. That part of his life is over. He'll never go back, and those are small dreams in comparison to what the world has to offer him now. And just as he's scooping up with the last little crumbs of cheese and bread with his fingertips and bringing it to his mouth, he realizes one more thing that he remembers. Oh, shit, I blew the horn of Valir. Like, out of all the little things.
That small thing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
that too. Oh, crap. Now, that's when he realizes he's pretty fucked. So just then, there's a knock on the door, and that's where the chapter ends. So this is a pretty summarized chapter there, and it's quite short, but it's just him basically catching up on everything that he's missed and going over all of his memories for us to kind of catch up what's happening and where everything's at, and then knock knock.
A lot of the chapters that we're dealing with at the moment are just like conversations in rooms, either in a study or a bedroom, or like it's not a lot of action, or like we had a brief Grey Man attack in the previous episode. In this one, there is also Egwene's accepted test, but the rest of it is a lot of exposition. So there's like a lot of just conversation. So some of our chapter summaries are going to be a bit more abridged, I think.
Yes, I mean this one is really a page, but my next chapter is 3.5 pages. So it's coming. But at the moment, just a little exposition, little recap, little summary.
So Joe.
Yeah.
Matt mentions when he's going through the list of people that he's remembering, a well-dressed man giving almost fatherly advice.
Yes.
Who's that?
He beats me. I could only... well-dressed man?
Ishamael?
I thought Ishamael. But then giving him fatherly advice? I don't think so. Was it like a messed up memory of Arthur Hawkwing when he met him there? Was he dressed nicely? Because he was fatherly.
Yeah, and Matt's memories are now totally unreliable, right?
So
what he's recalling here could be mixed in with anything. Could be literally anything. But the way that Ishamael interacted with Perrin the last time Perrin sort of met him in that inn, and then saw Lanfear afterwards, he had changed his way of talking to them completely, just saying, Don't associate yourself with the Dragon Reborn. That's only going to bring you trouble. Just you were saying to Perrin, just pick up the hammer, just go be a blacksmith, just stay out of this. And I was wondering if maybe Matt had a similar visitation.
Yeah, I also remember that line.
Sounds to me like Ishi went online and searched, how can I persuade someone to do this? Like step 2, reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I've tried step 1, murdering them all. It didn't work. Step 2.
It kept failing.
Yeah.
It's like Wile E. Coyote.
I did see that line, and it did stick with me, but I have no answer for you.
The line that Matt utters when he wakes up is, "Footmen, prepare to pass cavalry forward."
First thought.
Yes. Which is an order that he gives in that flashback, because like you said, we've got this like whole section, and I actually took note of this section as well, because he talks about his left flank is protected by a river, and his right flank is protected by a bog, and then he's got this footmen up front, and this move that he then enacts, the heart of Manetheren is the unit of cavalry that he's commanding. So when he gives his command to the footmen, they make these pre-planned channels in between them, like they all step to both side, towards each other and away from each other, so they open up these channels and the horses come charging through there into the Shadowspawn, which is this amazing like little glimpse of a battle tactic, which just makes Jeffrey Bornhold's "the children shall advance at a trot" that much more laughable, right? That's what I was looking for, because here you see someone employing actual strategy, and Bornhold was just a fucking, I don't know, he just walked his troops into a meat grinder,
cantering towards his own death.
Well, he was leading a bunch of children of the light.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you expect? Master tacticians?
But he's supposed to be one.
I love the master tactician role that Matt assumes by channeling all these old memories and stuff. Like his the infamy of the band of the Red Hand and stuff later is fucking cool. And I remember, like, don't they also just like they happen upon the Battle of Dumai's Wells, like they just happen to be there, and they're like fighting this almost guerrilla war, like running like the small group of troops between the different hills so they can't be seen, and then attacking from this side and that side. I love that stuff. And Matt becomes like the uber general out of all of them.
But I've got a big question about Matt now, pre all of this. Is it the dagger that brought all of that old blood out in him? Is it the channeling that was done to remove the dagger from him? Or is it just this Deveran nature now that is starting to also go overdrive as he's blown the horn? And
when Matt first shouts those Manetheren battle cries in the Eye of the World, is when they are attacking they charge at the Shadow Spawn.
At Shadowlog, yes.
It's before Shadow Logoth, so it's before he had the dagger. So the old tongue and the old blood was already very, very strong in Matt before he even had the dagger. Now, what effect the dagger had on him? I think the dagger effect on him is that he lost a lot of his memories. Like, when I get the sense that when the Aes Sedai severed the connection with the dagger, like they had to sacrifice some, maybe not even consciously, but a side effect of it is that like patches of his memories are empty because he can't remember a lot of things. And then later in the story, he's already got this like close affinity to the old blood of Manetheren, right? Like he was shouting Manetheren battle cries in the old tongue before he even got to Shadow Logoth. And then later in the story, when they go to the Elfin and the Eelfin, he asks them to give him back his memories. And they fill all the blanks in his memories with the memories of these other generals and stuff that were before him. So now it's much less instinctual and much more like an actual memory that he can remember as if he was there. So he gains even more access to those old lives later in the story. But I think what's happening here is just what we've seen in him since book one.
I had the same thought as Villiers. Like, this is very, very specific. Previously, he was just shouting random lines in the old tongue, and I always remembered that his memories, the gaps in his memories from this healing, were filled by the Elfin, and the Elfin, or whichever one filled his memories with those memories of the generals. And I thought that happened later, but I see it's much earlier now in the books, this very specific memory. But yeah,
I don't know.
maybe he's just naturally got the memories from Manetheren now, and those other generals that get filled in later are not Manetheren generals. They're just random generals from all cultures.
Maybe. I like the thing you called out about like that general in the past also being known as a gambler, and he says it's time to toss the dice, and then he shouts that command for the cavalry to go.
Yeah.
But Varen had actually used that phrase before. Varen said it's time to toss the dice when she convinces Rand to channel at the portal stone.
All right. Well, that's popping up a lot then.
She asks Rand, "Are you a gambling man?" And he says, "No, Matt's the gambler." And then Varen says, "Well, it's time to toss the dice." Matt, when he thinks back to Moraine, he thinks that Aes Sedai is crazy. Like he has such
yes,
he has such a cool, like flippant attitude towards all Aes Sedai and anyone of authority. He is just my favorite recalcitrant rogue.
There is one line specifically during that chapter as well, when he's thinking about the Aes Sedai and and he says to himself, "There's one thing that I can remember, that I should remember, is that don't trust the Aes Sedai. Out of all my patchy memories and everything I've forgotten, everything I remember that."
I do like that he's not negative Matt anymore. Little emo Matt clutching a dagger. He's actually back to being fun.
A bit of a clown now, and a bit of a joker. When he thinks about Rand, he goes, "I wonder if he's gone mad yet." It's inevitable. Yeah, Rand's going to go mad. Okay, is that it?
I think we've got that one covered.
Should we march on then to chapter 20, Visitations? So, Jody, your chapter ended with a knock on the door. The door opens, and in walks Lanfear.
Of course, she's just strolling around.
"What's up, Matt? I'm just here in the White Tower."
Yeah.
And I mean, there is a bit of that. Like, you know, she walks into the room, and Matt doesn't quite recognize her, but he feels like he should. And I wonder if this is... I don't think Matt ever encountered Celine, did he?
Yes, he did. He saw her in the village, up in the house, when they were moving with the Lancers to Terminate, and they were going through village to village.
That was just through a window.
Well, still, she was there.
Did he see her, though? Uno saw the lady.
Uno saw one, and... Oh, here we go. Correction coming. No, but I do hold the belief that he saw her as well
in one of those villages. Because I was thinking maybe it is one of his old memories, because, you know, Lanfear is thousands of years old. Maybe like some of his old memories are of this person. Who knows?
It's a mystery. Forget about it.
You know, I can't. We'll be talking about it next time. That's for sure.
We're gonna stitch you up one episode and just make so many errors.
Please don't. So anyway, Lanfear walks in and Matt's kind of dumbstruck, and Lanfear says to him, I mean, she doesn't call herself Lanfear. She introduces herself as Celine, but she suggests that maybe you should put some clothes on, and Matt looks down and he's nude.
Yes.
Like, oh, shit. Runs over to the bed and he like pulls some blankets around him. And she then says, I would not have visited you in this way, Matt, except I was here in the White Tower for another purpose, and I wanted to see all of you. Is that Joe? You've read on a bit. Like, does she appear to anyone else? Is this the stretch in which she actually disguises herself as Elsie Grinwell, who we know at this point has actually been cast from the tower already?
Yes.
Aha. Okay.
Short and sweet. Yes, she does do that, and she does meet the girls as well.
Okay. So brazen, hey, like Lanfear
Yeah.
just cruising around the White Tower.
But isn't Masana in
anyway,
the tower already at this point?
She is later. Later, you read about her operating in the tower, and I can only assume that at this point she must be there already.
So two Forsaken walking around in the tower. What if Masana knows that Lanfear is there?
Well, it would make sense. Two Forsaken walking around in the tower where they have the largest Ajah.
So
It's
200
their tower.
It's their tower.
Yeah,
It's
technically.
like, look at us go in our tower.
It's crazy, hey. So she tells Matt to make sure that he eats a lot of food to fuel the healing, capital H, recovery. So she is cognizant of what they did with him. And Matt tells her that she looks familiar, and that's when she says, "Okay, well, you can call me Celine." And then he thinks he could have heard that name before, and I was wondering, like, Rand might have actually said her name around Matt. So maybe he does recall the name a little bit, but obviously not straight
when
up.
they join up with Rand, Huron,
In Kyrian.
Loyal and Carrion,
Yeah.
he told him the story.
He asks her if she's an Aes Sedai, and she gives him an emphatic no. These Forsaken do not like to be compared with or mistaken for any of the current Aes Sedai. Later she also refers to them as these Aes Sedai.
Mm.
Then you ask her, okay, so then are you a novice? Because novices
She's
wear
like-
white.
Yeah.
She's just like, no, dude, you're barking up the wrong tree here. But then she gets straight into business, and she tells him that the Aes Sedai in the tower are going to use him, even if it will bring him glory. The way she speaks about these so-called Aes Sedai, prompts Matt to ask her if she's a dark friend. And her response is distinctly Aes Sedai-like. She doesn't say no or yes. She's indignant, but she's like, do you mean one of those followers of Baalzamon's who just follow his every whim and his every command, chasing dreams of immortality and power? No, there's only one man I'll stand beside, and none I would follow. So she doesn't say she's not a dark friend, but she says she's not one of Baalzamon's followers, which is pretty funny, like how vehemently she denies being Aes Sedai, and then her answer is distinctly Aes Sedai. Like, she's not even bound by the Oath Rod.
Yeah.
She says to Matt that she won't compel him, but she admits that she will also use him, but she will be honest about it. And what he will get in the process is all the glory that he can possibly imagine. And she feels like that is something that appeals to him, and that's why she's talking to him, like she's giving him the story straight. She knows that he's suspicious of her, especially since carrying the dagger, and she can't fault him for that. She knows that the dagger, even though he's been healed, still has an effect on him, which makes him suspicious of everyone. She says the Aes Sedai don't know how important he is, and he will dissuade or kill you, but I can give you what you desire. So Matt asks, hang on, who wants to kill me? Someone's out to try and kill me? And her mouth tightens as if she said too much. And I wonder if this is Matt's Taveran nature actually affecting a Forsaken. Like she gave him too much information.
Yeah.
Apparently against her own will.
Well, he is naked, so, her brain is all
It's
boggled.
distracting.
Yes.
She then gives him an example of the Aes Sedai deception. And she tells him that both his dad and Tam Althor had both come to the tower looking for him and were turned away. And she says, do you think the Aes Sedai will tell you about this? She tells him that Rand is trying to escape Moraine at the moment. We'll see if the Aes Sedai will tell you that. Will the Aes Sedai tell you that there are Black Ajah in the White Tower? Like these are all examples of things that they are not going to tell you, but which are true. Will they even tell you how they mean to use you? So she's fueling Matt's suspicious nature. She's fanning the flames there, and that comes through in the later conversations that he has with Swan. So she just reminds him that he has choices and that the world is not just black and white. Because Lanfear, I feel also more than any of the other Forsaken, is operating almost as a completely rogue agent. Like she seems to have her own motives altogether, and they don't even necessarily seem bound by the shadow. Like her motives are more like hook up with Rand, Lews Theron, and rule the world together, the two
Yeah.
of them. The shadow be damned. In the later books, I'm sure she even says that they can take on the creator with the Kuden Call, take on the
Yes.
creator and the Dark One, and like they will be the all powerful beings. Matt responds, "Yeah, I guess I'll consider that." And then she sort of gets irked by that, and she says, I won't compel you," but she sort of like she reaches out, she stretches out her hand to him, and he feels his headache suddenly return.
Mm.
And then when Lanfear hears a sound, or she notices something that makes her sort of like make her exit, she stops what appears to be channeling, and his headache goes away. So
Mm.
Matt again here getting channeled at and not liking it, but she then just leaves him in the room and tells him to consider what she said. So this exchange just makes Matt want to leave the tower even more, right?
Yeah.
Like he already wants to bolt.
Hey, when she says "I will not compel you," does she is compel with a capital C?
I don't think so, no.
Mm-mm.
No.
But I read that word from a channeler. I read that word with a capital C every time.
Mm.
Yeah.
So because he really wants to leave the tower, he quickly goes to the wardrobe to check his belongings. And he finds his two dice cups. Like, I mean, this
Yeah.
is the first time that they've ever been mentioned, right? But he's got two dice cups, one with just the plain spots and the one with the symbols on it for King's dice, whatever the game is called. Matt's just ready to gamble his way out of town.
Crowns, isn't it?
Crowns.
Yes. Just then, Swan and Leanne walk in, and I wonder if this is what sort of like if
And spooked
Lanfear had a
Lanfear.
ward or something outside.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
For if someone approaches, then she can just go. So they walk in and they bundle him back into bed. And despite his protest, they tell him that he needs to rest and recuperate. And he continues to argue that he's fine to leave. But, he is obviously, he can barely walk, but Matt's like, oh, no, I'll just go. Don't worry about it. So Swan tells him that she's given his name and description to all the harbor masters and the bridge guards. So he can go out into the city, he can leave the tower, but he's not leaving Tarvalon anytime soon. So that's when Matt starts to sort of use some of this information that Lanfear had given him to see how straight and narrow Swan and the Aes Sedai really are. So he talks about how he misses his dad. What does he say to her, Swan?
Like he must be worried to death. Like he must have come looking for me by now.
Yes, he says like he surely. I'm sure he would have come looking for me by now. And Swan then says like she actually initially she deflects. I mean, she had the opportunity there to answer him straight, and she didn't. She's a victim of her own sort of Aes Sedai-ness here, where she deflects, and then eventually says, "Look, your dad did come to the tower, but it was before we knew where you were. So we gave him some money and we turned him away. He spoke to Leanne. She doesn't say anything about Tam.
Yeah.
So Matt then says, well, when I was traveling with a guy from my village called Randolph Thor. I'm sure his dad must also be super worried and probably also looking for him. And at that point, they don't say anything about Tam coming, but Swan sends Leanne away to go get that pie that she said he could probably still finish, because they've noticed that he's finished all the food, so they'll get him some more food, obviously, to help him recuperate. But after Leanne leaves, Swan warns Matt not to talk about Rand in front of people, in front of anyone. Still nothing about Tam coming to the tower. And then she explains to Matt about the fact that he is the current active, like blower of the Horn of Valir, which means that if anyone else blows it, nothing will happen. Only if he blows it will it happen. That freaks Matt out, because he then immediately he connects the dots and he's like, "Oh my god, you want me to blow the Horn of Valir in the last battle, don't you?" And Swan just says, "You are exactly like an uncle I used to have. Like as soon as anyone tries to like pin you down or like put any kind of responsibility on you, you just bolt." So she tells him, "Look, just keep it a secret, because there are people out there that the Dark is also searching for the Horn of Valir. Don't let people know that you are the one that blew it, and that you are the only one that commands it now." He uses that opportunity to say that he expected the tower could keep Dark Friends out, testing her to see if she will admit that there are Dark Friends in the tower. But her answer is just along the lines of like, "Well, isn't that a good reason to stay in the tower then?"
Mm.
Again, not answering his question, using it as an opportunity to reiterate why you should stay in the tower. But she dodges that question, and eventually she leaves, telling him to rest, and he immediately starts planning how the fuck he's going to get out of Dodge.
Yeah.
The end.
Now, this whole conversation with Swan, she must be this entire time because he's asking pointed questions that he knows that she has the answers to. And she's not dumb. So I think she's realizing, holy shit, this idiot that I'm meant to manipulate now for the horn, he is no idiot. And luckily,
Sure
Celine
isn't.
was there 5 minutes previously to give him all of
Totally.
this information. And he
Yeah.
plays her, and she must have noticed it. I mean, she sent Leanne away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now she's like, oh, shit. This guy knows more than he's letting on.
He does. He's not going to be easily controlled at all, and
Yeah.
he's a powerful Taveran.
Yes.
There's no controlling these boys. They haven't learned. They
No.
just
No.
have to.
Well, but Altamont has learned. He's about the only one that's learned a lesson here.
Well, he's the only one that's died twice.
These boys just
Yeah.
going around teaching lessons, taking names.
Oh, it's so good to have Matt back. Well,
Mm.
I say,
Yeah, I'm stoked.
like he hasn't really been this Matt since like Eamon's Field.
Since that badger in his
like,
pocket incident.
Since there was a badger.
Yes, yes. But we obviously, having read all the other books, we know how he sort of turns out, and it's just cool to see that starting to emerge now. Like we get the opportunity to really get to know Matt. This is maybe a little off topic, but I really enjoy the way that Brandon Sanderson wrote Matt. Matt is like a typical Brandon Sanderson character, like with a quick wit and sort of like irreverent all the time and making fun of stuff. And it's cranked up to 11 in those last couple of books that Brandon wrote.
It's odd that you say that because I've watched interviews with Brandon and read comments that he has, and he said Matt was the hardest character to write for him. He had a lot
Really?
of trouble writing Matt, and other people have criticized him for it.
Really? I love it.
I don't remember those last 4 books anyway, so can't really comment.
Well, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, right. Awesome. I will read it again then. I will, obviously, but yeah. I have to go back and check that out because I don't recall that being a thing. Like, I don't recall any difference in Matt's character, but then again, that doesn't say much, as we've pointed out.
Yeah, he becomes just like almost every line that comes out of his mouth is a joke.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's cranked up to 11.
Maybe that's what pissed a lot of people off. Or it was just went maybe a little overboard for some
people need to chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look, the world's about to end. Let the guy make jokes.
I'm hungover. I don't have time for people that complain about this fantastic series of books.
Yes. Right.
All right. Let's keep on trucking. Chapter 21 is called A World of Dreams. Take it away, Vili.
Oh, yes. And old Egwene is hands and knees full of grease, dirty dress, doing the scrubbing of the kitchen, not just the pots. It's also scrubbing the white slabs and cleaning the heath. And it was baking day, so there's extra ash. And shouldn't be a lot of pots, but there were still hundreds of them. I don't know how many Aes Sedai there are in the tower at that point in time, but they shouldn't be
200,
eating
and
a
they're
lot.
all Black Ajah.
Less 13.
Less 13. All right.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
So yeah, she's while she was cleaning the kitchen, Varen came down to the kitchen to get some food, but more as a guise to summon it up to her study, which she explained to her how to get there on top of the library. And she's just washing her hands and getting ready to go. She's super tired, but goes down these pathways that never get used, and it's almost the tower turned to Hogwarts all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like library and dusty alleys, and eventually finds a black door where there's a tapestry of a king on a horse being handed a surrender from another king in battle or whatever, which she aptly named some dudes that died many thousands of years ago.
Yes.
Like, not even the
And-
servants come down there because everything's so dirty. There's dust on
Yeah,
everything.
they just the Aes Sedai, the Browns that work in there is always looking at a piece of paper. They don't notice what's happening around them that much, especially with the tidiness of the place, obviously.
They do play up those stereotypes of the Argers all the time, and this
Big
is
time.
exactly what you imagine the brown Arger quarters to look like.
If
Just
you
thinking
now
now-
see her getting into her office, so Egwene raps on the door, announces herself, and walks in, and it's like Snape's study.
Snape is actually in the corner if you look carefully.
Owls and skulls and a Trolloc skull on the wall, and it's just books on books, and where there's a space open against the wall, there's maps or bookcases, and there's just a gap for a door, really.
Yeah. I had such a great mental image of this place. I read this chapter super slow this whole part. I was just the image I have in my mind is so much clearer than any other reading.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's cool.
And Viren had summoned her there and scrambles through stuff. But first, she's reading this little passage that has been translated from something in the past. The Heart of the Dark, Baalzamon, name hidden within name, shrouded by name, secrets buried within secrets, cloaked by secrets. Betrayer of hope, Ishmael, betrays hope. Truth burns and sears. Hope fails before truth. A lie is our shield. Who can stand against the heart of the dark? Who can face the betrayer of hope? Souls of shadow, he is. And then she stopped with a sigh and asks Egwene, what does she make of it? And she's like, she's like, of course you don't know. I've been reading this for 40 years and I still don't know. Just
did you guys get anything out of that? Like, I can't. It's very, very vague.
Yes,
and a bit confusing to be honest.
Well, it confused Varen for 40 years. So
for 40 years, it's been bugging her. But I mean, Ishmael is in that, and he's around now, so maybe there's relevance. It will come out later. Write into us. Let us know. Yeah. So she then proceeds to scramble through pages, Varen, and gets a little binded, a lot of papers together, and hands it to Egwene and says, "You need to go through all of these. This is all the details on Leandrin and her crew that stole everything they stole and got away with, what they studied, everything the tower really has on them." And she's like, "Oh, wow, okay, that's heaps." So she hands her this, and then a ring that feels as heavy as lead, and it's got different colors of stripes on it. And she says, "And this is a terangrial." And she's like, "What? You're giving me this? What's the what? This is too heavy. This is too much." And it turns out this was now one of the sisters' the last dream, Korean.
Korean and Nadale or something. There's way too many vowels in there.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And this was hers, that she's had her, and it appears that Varen is the only other sister that knows about it. And she's like, "You got to keep this secret. You got to keep it." But she had this, but Varen doesn't give her the notes that she had on it. Yeah, it's kind of like,
we actually spoke about this in the last episode. I didn't know that it was coming up in the next one.
Yeah. So he has the most complicated piece of technology from the Age of Legends with no instruction manual, even though I have it.
Yeah.
Figure it out.
Good luck. And it can kill you. So have at it.
Sounds much like me and IKEA furniture.
I'm wondering what Varen's endgame is here. Do we find out later? I hope. Because why
I
do
hope
that?
so too, because there's a lot of strange things that Varen does here in a super owl office, where the owl is now swooped to another skull, and that's when Egwene actually sees this is a Trolloc skull. So it's like, but yeah, she's now been given this, and she has to figure out what she has to do, because now she then Varen explains to her sort of how the world of dream, and this is where it all came to, like how it works, what it is, and how it fits into all the other worlds. And Egwene had quite a few questions around, well, is there a dark one bound in every world? Or no, there's only one dark one and one creator. They are in all the worlds. So she's getting a bit of and Varen then shows her the scar on her arm, saying that just bear in mind, when you into the world of dreams, it has lasting consequences. If you die there, you die. And shows her a scar that has not really healed after healing. So I don't know when that happened to Varen, but
Anaya is the one that healed her.
Healed her, yes.
And she says Anaya's healing didn't work as it should have. Now we know Anaya is a blue, and Anaya is also there when healing Matt. And people seem to think that Robert Jordan had not yet figured out what the yellow Ajah was going to do, because why was Anaya the one healing Varen, a blue? And why was there no yellow leading the flows at Matt's healing? So those two things in conjunction have made people speculate that maybe the Yellow Ajah's actual purpose had not yet been settled on at this point in the series. Now, if you cast your mind back to Nynaeve's accepted test, and she gets those thorns
Yeah.
pricked in her hands, they heal her when she comes out of the arches. And Sheriam says, that shouldn't have happened. Like, you should have been fully healed. That's weird. So it's like another dream world injury that healing in the real world can't actually fix.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Yes, and well, other than that, I think it's really Egwene leaving with a ring and a bundle and a bag and all the notes of the 13 or 12 sisters that are 13 sisters? Yeah,
13.
Leandrin and the 12
Yeah.
that had fled and what they had with and things that she can really not be caught with in this
Yeah.
time and space in the tower. I don't know what else did you guys get in that.
Yeah, just to clarify on those lists that she's got, those are pretty important. Like the 13 Aes Sedai, where they're from, their histories, also all the Ta'angril that were taken, who studied them, what they were for, and if they knew what they were for.
Comprehensive.
A whole bunch of very incriminating evidence and information being handed to a novice.
Yes.
And a Ta'angril. Here you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
What?
But Varen doesn't give Egwene Karianen's notes.
Yeah.
Karianen spent her whole life studying that Terangriel and the world of dreams, and Varen doesn't give her the notes at all.
Yeah.
Now, I have my own little theory here that maybe Karianen was also Black Ajah because she erased the record of that Terangriel from any tower records. She was breaking tower law.
Yes. She must have been
So
then.
maybe there was something incriminating from a Black Ajah point of view in the notes that Varen came by, because Varen also found her notes. No one else knows that those notes even exist.
Yeah.
So because Varen is also Black Ajah, maybe that's how she came to have them in her possession, and maybe that's why she didn't share them.
Could it be because she knew that they could be bad notes? Sort of, someone tries using this that don't know get blown up.
But I mean, she gives her the Terangriel. That's far more dangerous. Like,
Fair enough.
with no, even if Karianen learned to not do specific things and took note of that, that would be super useful. And Varen actually says that she contemplated giving the notes to Egwene, but in the end chose not to. So I just don't know what that reason would be.
Yeah.
Because I mean, obviously, I thought exactly the same. Like, what? Why is she doing this? Okay, well, maybe she's just playing a black side now.
Yeah.
Or maybe she wants. She believes Egwene is a lot more powerful, and let her just. Maybe the notes are bad, like not certainty or.
We will never know. Unless we do find out later in the story.
Yeah. 5 chapters from now, it's all explained.
Okay.
Well, that
Well,
makes
then we'll have a
sense.
solid callback.
Yep, you'll be putting pins in everything.
Oh, yes. Should we go on to the next chapter?
Oh, we definitely can. Did we exhaust that one? I feel like we didn't exhaust it.
Look, if we talk about this any longer, we're just going to open up more questions because I have so many questions.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
Mine is specifically about that little bit of text she read, Egwene, in the beginning.
I had a look at it while you guys were carrying on now, and it basically says that Baalzamon is Ishamael.
Yeah, that we know.
We know, but not Rand doesn't know. Matt doesn't. Nobody of
I
these
had
people.
the same thought, Joe.
That everybody thinks that when Baalzamon is visiting them, that it is the Dark One, and we know it's Ishamael. But I think this text is saying lies within lies and secrets within secrets. It's Ishamael pretending to be Baalzamon, and this is the proof of that.
A first-time reader does not ever get the reveal that Baalzamon is actually has been Ishamael the whole time. When you read the books the first time and you've come this far, all those visitations in the dreams and stuff are Baalzamon. Even Lanfear refers to Baalzamon, and Ishamael, because people seem to think that Ishamael was also a bit crazy and that he had taken the name Baalzamon and truly believed that he was almost the Dark One.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, Joe, maybe that's what it is supposed to convey here at this specific point in the scripture.
It's not doing so very effectively, Jordan. But
maybe it's like everything else. It's just planting a seed, maybe, because
yeah,
I'm pretty sure that there is another face-off with Ishamael at the end of this book. Both him and Belal, and it's after that that Moraine says, "I've suspected this for a while, but I don't think that who you've been fighting is the Dark One. I think it is just Ishamael styling himself as the Dark One."
Mm.
Let's see. Set
Let's
up for
see.
another callback.
yeah.
Put a
I
pin
mean,
in that as well.
just a part of this text is name hidden within name, shrouded by name, secret buried within secret, cloaked by secret. Fuck off. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything.
Isn't that always the case with prophecy and foretelling and stuff? It's always so goddamn vague.
Yeah, I mean, some of the prophecies that we've read, you can figure it out and it's well written, but that's just blah blah blah.
But she does explain that it was translated and poorly so. So that
Oh.
does play on the fact that it is just such a bungle of badly translated sentences.
Well, okay, that explains it. Then. Let's leave it.
It went lost in translation, Joe. Don't be
Of
angry with Verit.
All right. Sorry, Varen.
Okay, so the next chapter, chapter 22, The Price of the Ring.
Strap in, people. All right.
Yes.
Starts off slow, but fuck me. So then we join up with Egwene as she's heading back to her room. She's just left Varen now at the library. As she's walking out the door, she bumps into Sheriam, who is kind of pissed because she's been looking for her all over. And Sheriam, as we all know, is Black Ajah, and Egwene has a big sheet of papers in her hand about the Black Ajah and everything they were saying. Very incriminating. She even asks her about it. Like, what's that in your hand? And Egwene, very cleverly, oh, it's just some papers that Varen thought I might study. A very Aes Sedai answer. It is the truth.
It's true.
It's not a lie, but not exactly what you thought. So anyway, getting there, Egwene. And then Sheriam drops the news on her, like, oh, by the way, I'm looking for you because you're going to be doing the test for accepted right now. Surprise. And she's like, what up? Like, I need to sleep. Can I have the night off? Can I wash myself? Like, I've just been scrubbing pots. No, nobody's the Amyrlin said that you are getting your test done now. So that is it. End of story. Follow me. So off they go down into the bells, as you said before.
Yeah.
I've named them. Oh yes, walking through the bells. So they go down to the domed dungeon of doom is what I call it. The room where they get their their accepted test done. So Elida is there as well. There's a whole bunch. We'll go through the names. Yeah. That should be her name. Elida is there, and she's none too pleased after being made to wait on Egwene. It's not Egwene's fault. She was called by another Aes Sedai, but Elida's just a horrible human. So they go through the same spiel, explaining about the 3 chances. You got to face your fears, and we've been here before, everyone. We know what's happening in this test. Elida wants Egwene put out of the tower, not raised. She's very critical. She hates her guts, and actually Sheriam points out, like, you didn't have this problem with Elaine earlier this evening. So by the way, Elaine has already done the test, and she passed, and she's now accepted. So Sheriam basically tells Elida, like, shut up and do your duty, or fuck off and I'll find someone else to do this. And there's like a little staring match between the two of them, and eventually Elida concedes. And I'm like, yeah.
They've squared off a couple times now.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but why am I supporting the Black Ajah? I don't care, as long as Elida's getting her comeuppance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheriam is Black Ajah, but she's a bit of a tragic figure. I feel like when you find out that she is Black Ajah, she was almost coerced into it, and she also was being beaten at the time, and like there's a backstory there. So
she has some history.
I tend to go kind of lightly on Sheriam because she does at times stick up for the girls.
Yeah, I mean, she's still the mistress of the novices. And I mean, this whole time, as a first-time reader, thinking Elida has got to be Black Ajah. She's got to be. But no, she's just shit. And
she's
Sheriam,
just awful.
And Sheriam is so nice, and she's actually the Black Ajah. So it's all well done there in the beginning. If you obviously haven't read it 3 times. So as Egwene prepares herself, Alana, who's there as well, who's manning the archers, says that she's noticed some sort of resonance, some interference coming from the Ta'angreal. And Sheriam asks her, like, is it okay? Can we carry on? And then she's like, no, okay, it's gone now. We can go on. But it is important that she mentions that. And then in this book, in this chapter, I think, may have been the next chapter, we find out it's because of the ring to Ungril that Egwene has on her.
Yeah. I thought I was being very clever. Oh, it's obviously because of this Tangriel. I figured it out.
Yes.
And then later, Alana pretty much says exactly that.
That's exactly those things, yeah. This has happened before, and it was because there was another Tangriel in the room. You're like,
yes,
not so smart then. I had the same thought,
no.
Moritz. Yeah, I also thought myself very smart, but no, it does say that later on. I thought of it as like when you put a mobile phone next to the TV and exactly the same resonance.
I don't think it does that anymore, does it?
Exactly. I haven't heard that noise in ages. I wonder if
Didn't it
cell phone
change now
technology
that
has
it's
changed.
gone from different bands, like 3G to 4G? Like you can now listen to your headphones and your Discman or radio or anything in your
Discman.
Back.
Or maybe we've just learned not to put our phones near these things. I don't know which one it is, but the same thought, Vili. Exactly the same thought. So anyway, that's besides the point. There's some resonance going on mobile
Do you
phones.
remember modem dial-up sounds?
Guys, I'm hungover. You're dragging this out for no reason.
Yes, I do remember those sounds, Vili. Let's talk about them just a tad more.
Jeez, you used to listen to them.
Okay, favorite moments.
All right, moving on. Let's not talk to the poor guy. So Egwene steps through the first ring. Let's get on with this, all right? She steps through the first ring. She's back in Emond's Field. She's married Rand, and she has a daughter, Joya, or Hoya, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Egwene is studying to become the next wisdom under Nynaeve, and Nynaeve never left, so obviously no one ever left. Everyone's still there. And there's talk of war in the land. There's the rumors about the Seanchan have invaded. So regardless of what reality it is, the Seanchan invade. Rand has been having headaches, and whenever he does, strange things happen. Like one day he was trying to remove an old stump to clear a new field, and then he had a headache, and the next day a lightning, or just after that, a lightning bolt struck out of a clear sky and destroyed the stump. So weird shit. So he's never learnt to use the power properly, and he's going insane and getting sick by random wildling channeling. But Egwene also still has her little secret. She can also channel, and she's been helping him with his headaches and helping Nynaeve as well. Even one time she's sat by some people who were on their deathbed, 3 people in a row, and they were all brought back to life. So she's very good at healing herself, but using the one power. She hasn't told anyone, obviously. It's a big secret. But that's what she's been doing as well. And just as she's about to help Rand now with one of his other headaches, an archway appears, and she has to leave Rand just as his pain becomes so bad that he falls to the floor and screams for her to help. And she has to leave him there. So that's how the first one ends. I went over that very, very quickly, but there's better stuff coming in the later arches, so we'll just skip along then. So she's in the second arch. She finds herself in the ruins of the great palace of Andor. So the city's been destroyed. She's climbing over rubble. She's looking for Rand, and the city is overrun by shadow spawn. All right, so obviously in this alternate reality, the shadow has won, or has at least got a foothold in Andor already. She spots a Fade ordering some Trollocs to hunt Rand, so she just jumps over some rubble and through some logs and beams, and she's climbing through there to get away from them and get to Rand first. She finds Rand, and he's trapped under a beam. So if she channels to lift it, then everything's going to come tumbling down and kill them. And if he has the power himself to channel, and he could move the rocks and everything, the whole palace off him. But if he starts channeling, he'll lose himself to the madness once and for all, and just kill himself and her anyway, because he'll lose complete control. So the madness has got him that far already. Yeah. So rock in a hard place. There's no coming out of this. So he asks Egwene instead to kill him, because if the shadow spawn catch him, they can turn him to the dark side. So this is the first time we learn about that number 13. That's why we all knew that number. So third, we find out that like 13 Dreadlords or 13 Black Ajah channeling through 13 Madrol can turn another channeler against their will to the dark side. So he's like, look.
Just explain that mechanism for me, because I got lost there.
I'm sorry, there's no mechanism.
13 sisters have to channel into 13 Madral and then into Rand, and then they can make him evil.
Into any channeler, and then they can turn that channeler to the shadow.
Yeah.
So like conversion therapy.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, don't let that happen, because I am the Dragon Reborn. Rather just kill me. And she's like, no ways am I going to kill you. There's a dagger lying right there. Pick it up, stab me in the heart right now, because even if I try and channel against them, I'm going to lose my mind and they're going to be able to take over anyway. So anyway, she has to kill him. That's the only option left. But just then, the archway appears and she has to leave him lying on the ground, trapped under all this rubble, begging her to kill him. So that's how we leave on the second arch, and she comes out. I mean, she's pretty much shaken now. And Sheriam is leading her. While Sheriam is leading her to the next arch, Egwene mumbles about the Dreadlords and the Fades and turning around to the shadow, and Sheriam misses a step. And then we learn about the Dreadlords. Like, Sheriam gives a little explanation. And she's like, how did you know about that? And don't ever talk about it. And this is not something you need to concern yourself with. And very few people in the tower even know about it. So it's not common knowledge even amongst Aes Sedai. The last time it was done was in the Trolloc Wars, or even before that. I don't remember exactly when, but ages ago. So she's surprised that she got this knowledge from inside the rings. But anyway, she also muses to herself 13, the same number that left the tower. And with that, she enters the third archway. And in this reality, she's the Amyrlin Seat. But something is wrong. Not what's happening in the world of dreams, but something is wrong. And that Ta'angrel that she left outside is fucking with shit now. So there's a voice in her head that keeps on repeating the way back will come but once, but then gets cut off. And she kind of just leaves it behind and becomes part of that reality that she's in. Her keeper is there, Beldane, I want to say. Sure, Beldine if you want, or Beldane. I'm remembering all of these names and I'm noting them because they may come up later. These may be real people that we meet later.
Yeah.
So I'm taking note. So her keeper is there, and then Beldine and Egwene head to the Hall of the Sitters. But the memory of the 13 keeps repeating in her head this whole time. It's not something that she can shake even in this reality. And she shouldn't be able to remember that. So it's another weird thing. Like, Nynaeve and her both have these weird exchanges inside these rings. So when she gets there, all the sitters, or to the Hall of the Sitters, all the sitters are there from each Ajah. There's like 7 groups of 3. And they're all waiting for her to come and begin the ceremony. Anyway, and she hears again the way back comes but once, and slowly she gets shorter and shorter and changes into the Black Ajah waits in her head, and it's so loud that she's actually looks around to see if anybody else heard that, but no, it's just in her head. So the ceremony begins, and it's Rand. They bring Rand in chains, and they're going to gentle him. Is what she believes at first, at least. So only one person can order a man gentled, and that's the Amyrlin Seat. So Elida has found out in this reality. She's there, of course. Of course she's there. Elida, sorry. The correct pronunciation of her name is Elida knows that she has a connection. Well, Egwene has a connection with Rand, and she's using this moment to usurp power and put Egwene on the spot. And Egwene hesitates, obviously. And she can't do that to Rand, and she says as much. And Elida uses this moment to take power and expose Egwene as being a traitor to her kind, and says, take her. And Beldine smacks her on the back of the head with her staff. And I'm thinking, that is not just a ceremonial stick then, that the keeper's staff. It's actually a weapon. Maybe she's trained with a quarterstaff. Who knows? Lots of people seem to be very good with that. Yeah. So anyway, Beldine betrays her. Then when she does wake up, she is lying on a table naked, and there are 13 Aes Sedai standing around her. She doesn't know at first exactly how many, but she remembers it's important. Somehow she knows it's important to count them. And there are also 13 cloaked figures in the room who turn out to be Fades. So she realizes, oh shit, this is no bueno. There are 13 and 13, so they're going to try and turn her. But they don't know Egwene is awake. And before they can shield her, she screams, embraces the source, and just totally fucks them up.
Pause there quickly, if we can. Wasn't Nynaeve instructed not to channel in the arches when she went through?
She was indeed.
Okay, carry on.
Well, I don't know if she was instructed not to channel, but she was expected to not remember that she can channel. Remember, like they were saying, it shouldn't even be possible to channel because you shouldn't even remember that you can channel. But my question, as it relates to Egwene, is how would she, in the Archers, be the Amyrlin Seat of
she
the Aes
doesn't remember
Sedai
to channel.
and not be able to channel? So obviously there are scenarios in these tests in which a person can be an Aes Sedai, in which case they would know how to channel. And I mean, it didn't stop Nynaeve either, right? Like
No.
Nynaeve channeled twice during her tests. Nynaeve brought the Archers back.
Yeah, there was that. But even if they did, I mean, Sheriam and the people that give the information to the novices before they go through don't have all the info because it's not customary to talk about what happens inside the Archers.
No.
So it could be very common for people to be channeling inside there, but they never speak about it, so no one knows. There's another option.
Maybe.
So they don't know she's awake. Anyway, she wakes up, she starts channeling, she embraces the source, and she's burning half men. She's ripping stone from the wall and throwing them at the Aes Sedai and smashing into their heads and their bodies, just causing all kinds. She wins. She just totally fucks everyone up in their room. 13 Fades, 13 Black Ajah Aes Sedai against 1 Egwene. And when she gets up off the table, she maintains this whirlwind around her of air and chunks of stone that she's ripped from the walls. And inside this little circle of devastation, there's one more Black Ajah Aes Sedai lying on the ground, Gildan. And she gets up, and Egwene just goes old school and just punches her in the face. Another one of those magical moments. Like she's channeling so much power, but she doesn't use it. She just punches her in the face, and the woman's bones just turn to jelly, and she falls to the ground. So I thought that was a cool scene as well. Super powerful, but nothing as good as a nice right hook to the face. So Egwene escapes the room. She's naked now, so she heads to her room to go and get some clothes first. And when she gets there, she meets Baldine. And she explains to her, like, look, the Black Ajah had captured her 3 days earlier and stilled her. And then they had tortured her and threatened her and coerced her into betraying Egwene and said, like, look, if you do this, we'll be able to give you back your channeling. Just lies. Never believe them. But anyway, it's not real. Don't worry about it. So Egwene gets Baldine to tell her where Rand is and what's going on, and she heads to the Traitor's Court to go and save him. So when she gets to, the court is well protected, obviously, because in the past she has memories of how they did other gentlings, and we talk about those previous dragons that were not dragons, whose names I can't pronounce now, Gwyer, or how you pronounced it earlier, Moritz. Put you on the spot.
Pass.
Those guys.
You're in Strongbow.
Yeah.
Stonebow.
Yes,
What's
Strongbow's a cider. But yes, Stonebow, I think it was. Whatever. I can't remember now either. But anyway, when they were being gentle, their followers attacked. So they are used to attack. So the warders are surrounding it, armies, like everyone's trying to protect this room. So she pulls what I refer to as a Vin. She's on top of the rooftops, flying around there. So instead of going through the courtyard, she goes up. She also drops a little bit of information that even in this reality, she's never held the oath rod, so she's not bound by the 3 oaths. Yeah. So she can use the 1 power as a weapon. So there's a lot of foreshadowing here. Doesn't hold the oath rod, becomes the Amyrlin Seat. Yeah. So she's going to go and just fuck shit up, as always. So running along the rooftops, she spots Rand down in the court below. Elida is already there, reading his last rites to him, going through the ceremony, and she's already wearing the stole of the Amyrlin, so she's already raised herself in this short moment. Including Elida, there are 13 Aes Sedai surrounding Rand. Now, this is mentioned as the traditional number that is used when a gentling occurs. So this is what they would use anyway, but it's just too much of a coincidence that there were Fades and downstairs 13 Fades when trying to turn Egwene. Now there's 13 around Rand, so she's assuming now that Rand is going to be turned to the shadow with this as well. And there's confirmation, and she goes, I knew Elida was Black Ajah. And this is such a red herring for her in this. Because when she comes out now, she's going to be convinced that Elida, more so than ever, is Black Ajah, which is just going to send her on the wrong path. Because they are already so suspicious, like Billy was saying, they're tickling her brain. Like everybody is Black Ajah. She's not wrong. There's a very high percentage of them are. Yeah. So just as she gathers the power and prepares the weaves to attack and to save Rand, she hears, "The way back will come but once, and the archers appear. Be steadfast." And this comes as such a shock. Even me as a reader, I'd totally forgotten about this. I was so invested in this little adventure she was having trying to save Rand. And she also gets shocked by this sound that she hears and almost slips off the roof. But something's wrong again. The archers are flickering. It's not very clear. They disappear and come back. And she can hear the Aes Sedai on the other side, Alana and the rest of them freaking out and saying, like Alana saying, "I can't hold it much longer. She has to come through now." And that interference from the Tangril's gotten even worse and almost costs her life. So with a scream of rage, Egwene throws herself through the arch, and that's how the chapter ends. It ends with some very nice lines about being absorbed by light and everything. But yeah, torn apart. And that's how the chapter ends.
Were the archers at like a weird angle?
I don't recall. But she is on a slanted roof.
I got the sense that she sort of like had to fall through the arches, and because she has a thought about like either I go through these arches or I fall to my death.
Yes, and she was kind of hoping for the second to happen as well because it's just too much for her to bear.
Yeah. Cool scene with the half-men in that small room, like ripping chunks of stone out of the wall and creating like a
imagine that noise vortex. And that vortex just running around her, just smashing people to death. Oh.
And the flames come from within the half-men, like she's burning them from the inside.
I get the feeling that her accepted death was not so emotional, and that somehow she continuously always had that memory of what she is and what she's busy doing.
Was it not because of the Amyrlin interfering in the test?
Like she was I didn't feel that she was as distraught and torn as Nynaeve, and as we'll later read about Elaine. Like I don't know, maybe it's just me. Like she was just badass.
The first thing she says when she comes out of the arches is like, "Is this all there is for me to continually abandon and fail Rand?" So like that first arch is she's married to Rand. They have a baby daughter. Like the daughter is busy, like starts crying or laughing or something like as Rand is going insane, and she has to run outside because the archers are outside the house. So she literally has to abandon her daughter and her husband. And then in the second one, he asks her to kill him.
Yes.
And then she abandons him. She runs away.
No, that is all hectic. Like, don't get me wrong. If she went in and there was none of this and almost the forgetting about this, but the constant threat of the Black Ajah in the back of her head, and there's this interference that she's almost aware that she's in this test, and like, oh snap! Well, I've got to go through there now. But I would have done that.
There is definitely, all that talk of like, the other stuff interfering with the be steadfast message, like the stuff that she retained from the real world when she walked in about the 13 sisters and the Black Ajah weight and that sort of stuff definitely does make it sound like she isn't as fully in this world and removed from the real world as what Nynaeve was.
Yeah. Yeah, it's odd though that in all three she's a channeler. All three are Rand, and all three she can channel, which is not supposedly something that's supposed to be possible.
And all three Rand can channel as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, Moritz, there on the top tower, tilted to sit flat against the sloping tiles, was a silver arch filled with a glowing light. So yes, tilted and lying on its side, and she just dives through it like Superman, I imagine.
Or sliding down and falling through.
Fly kick.
Flying kick.
But then in the next chapter, when she comes out, she comes striding out, and she's just mad.
Yes.
She is pissed.
It's great. It's great. Did you guys also notice that when she's Aes Sedai in both the second and third arch, she's got a blue dress on, and when she's getting dressed as the Amyrlin, she's in a room with blue tiled floors. I thought these were hints at her sort of like, oh, maybe in these realities she chose the blue Ajah, but in the chapter that I'll cover next, she actually starts interrogating Alana about the green Ajah.
Yeah.
I just thought it was noteworthy that she was wearing blue and in a room with blue.
But didn't she see on the keeper a green something, which means they both came from the green?
No, just that the keeper came from the green.
But traditionally, they bring the keeper from the same Ajah. But I don't think that's a rule. I think that is a tradition.
Well, traditions have value and stick place. You only turn the
They do.
boerewors once.
She never chooses an Ajah, apparently. Like, she's raised from accepted to Amyrlin.
Mm.
So all of this is purely academic.
Yes.
And fantastical and imaginary.
Yes. Shiriam keeps deflecting questions about the Black Ajah. Don't think about that. Don't talk about that.
Mm.
Yeah, even if she wasn't, that I would be giving the same advice. Like, you've got other things
True.
to worry about right now. Don't think about that.
True. And then also, is this the first time that someone uses the word balefire?
It must be.
Yes.
In one of these chapters, Egwene thinks about
Balefire.
like the effect of the balefire.
Yeah, when she's about to save Rand now in the last arch, and then she even stops and goes, "Balefire? Am I supposed to know that?" Like,
and I don't think. I mean, we've seen Rand use it to kill what we suspect is a Darkhound, but nobody has actually named it.
Mm.
And I think it is what Moiraine actually uses at the end of this book to kill either Belal or Ishamael. And then she talks about it and explains what it does. But yeah, welcome to the party, Balefire.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, big
It
player
is,
later on.
Mm-hmm.
Very important to know this.
Yeah, huge. Okay.
Last one. Moritz, you're doing it, bro. You'll make it. How's your brain?
Last chapter. My brain is fried. Okay, then. Chapter 23 is called Sealed. Egwene steps out of the arch and she's immediately demanding, is this all there is for me? To betray and fail him again and again. She's livid and distraught. And then she notices that something is wrong, that the Aes Sedai sitting at the Terangriel are sweating, and the Angriel itself is like humming, almost vibrating, and there's these angry streaks of color flashing in the actual archways where it was just sort of like a misted surface before. Shiriam delves Egwene to make sure that she's okay, and she says to everyone that she seems all right. So they complete the ceremony with the chalice of water, and the ceremony ends with "You are sealed to us now," which seemed to Egwene to have special meaning. Which I was trying to read something into, but then I thought that's probably what everyone feels. And then I went back to Nynaeve's accepted test, and they obviously end with the same words. And when Nynaeve hears those words, she sees a dark glow in Swan's eyes, and also suspects that there's more to the meaning of those words than what they would appear to have on the surface. She gets her serpent ring, and Swan instructs Shiriam to make sure that she is okay. And Shiriam says, "You saw me delve her," but she says, "Double check, okay?
Yeah.
Just go make sure that she is absolutely fine," because obviously Shiriam is pinning, not Shiriam, Swan is pinning quite a lot of hopes on Egwene. So then Elida brings over Egwene's things, and it seems like Egwene's secret papers are undisturbed, and the Terangriel is still in her pouch. And then Elida just comes down on her and tells her in no uncertain terms that she just does not belong at the tower, that she would rather have Egwene put out of the tower than take the test. And she calls her a wilder, and she says, "I know you learned how to channel under the tutelage of Aes Sedai, but you have wilder ways. You have like a wilder spirit, and she just has no time for that. She doesn't want that in the tower at all." And she says to her, "You will never truly be a part of us," which is just cool. Again, like, how Egwene and Elida are pitted, in direct opposition as they head up the two fractured arms of the White Tower. It's all foreshadowing for, like how they will eventually square off.
And she doesn't truly become one of them, and for the better.
No, she never holds the Oath Rod.
Nope.
So Egwene asks Sheriam why she didn't stick up for her when Elida was sort of, rambling on like this. And Sheriam says to her, "Look, I would have stuck up for a novice, but you're an accepted now. So now you're going to have to learn to start sticking up for yourself." And then Alana saunters over, and she insists that it's her fault that all this happened, and that she should have known better to continue to commence with the ceremony when she felt that original thing. And she says to Sheriam and Egwene that she's going to ask Swan to have her match Egwene's punishments, that she goes to Sheriam's office for her switching, and that she will join her in the kitchens to scrub pots and stuff. And Sheriam is like, "Are you mad? What? No, that's never going to fly." But that's when she also, relates the story about the only other time that she's seen this sort of like effect on the Terangrial is when there was another Terangrial around, and it gave all the sisters involved like a headache for like a week or something, and none of them could channel for a week when this happened last time.
I wonder what Terangriel was in the room.
Maybe even the same one.
Oh. Well, no one's got a headache then. I'm just wondering, was it specifically the last time was interference with this arched Terangrial, or was it?
I didn't read it as specifically this Terangrial. I thought it was just two Terangrial of a similar nature being used near each other, which is something we should,
Look out for now.
maybe put a pin in to see how, like later when the guys are using the Terangrial to, they make copies of the Dream Terangrial to go into the world of dreams. I'd be interested to see how those are used. Are they used like between 3 different people sleeping in beds next to each other? Like, does that maybe have an effect on how useful they are? Don't know.
Just one thought about Alana's insistence on being punished the same. Is she trying to like ingratiate herself now with Egwene to try and get closer to Rand? Is this her first maneuvers?
Ooh, I don't know about getting to Rand because she doesn't know anything about Rand.
Every time that Egwene walks out of the arch, she carries on about Rand.
Why would Alana want to associate herself with this man that Egwene is talking about? Because she has no frame of reference. She has no idea who Rand is.
That's what who knows what Alana knows? But anyway.
Oh, we think.
No, okay, you have a point there. Okay, but premature.
Isn't Alana green?
Yeah.
She is a green.
Yeah, well, then that makes sense.
Who's this man you keep on talking about? He sounds awesome. I want him.
But Egwene does make the observation later that when Swan says to Alana that you can't go scrubbing pots with Egwene in the kitchen, that it will just not do to have a full sister do that. Alana seems disappointed, and Egwene comes to the conclusion that she thinks that she did want to spend time with Egwene. So if not to get closer to Rand, maybe to get closer to Egwene, who is this super powerful novice that has been rushed into. I mean, Egwene's been there for a couple months, and for the majority of the time she wasn't even in the tower. She was off gallivanting, with the others.
Yeah, and she came back and she's still going through all this.
Yeah,
she came back. I mean, she'd only been there for a couple of weeks. She came back, and then she goes straight into the accepted test and passes, despite this like massive interference. Like maybe Alana just sees in Egwene someone that is making moves. Like, she is someone noteworthy.
Okay.
The battle are just got to align with the right people.
Yeah. Egwene steers the conversation to what it means to be a green, and Alana explains that they are the Battle Ajah. And here we actually get a glimpse of Alviarin. She walks by, and Alana makes some comment about like, you can't be like the whites, just cold hard logic. You have to love men for, not just physically, but you have to also just like, love the concept of them. But Alviarin walks past, and ding, 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 another Black Ajah member.
Yeah.
She becomes Elida's keeper.
That's
and
right.
At one point tries to actually control Elida, and I think she does. Like when Elida is eventually at sort of like her wit's end, Alviarin is the one that's manipulating her.
Yeah, she really loses the plot, towards the end.
Yo, she does. It's so great. So Swan comes back to rejoin them, and that's when Alana says she makes a request, and she says, "Okay, fine, you can go to Sherem study and get switched, but I'm not going to let you go scrub pots." And that's when Egwene is, like, wow, she really did ask to do that, when she looks super disappointed that she can't scrub pots. And that's when she thinks maybe she just wanted to ingratiate herself or spend time with Egwene for, I don't know, reasons. Sheriam chases her off, and she heads to, so Sheriam chases Egwene off, and she heads to Nynaeve's room, not wanting to be alone. And when she walks in, Elaine is there, and she's sitting on her knees, like just crying into Nynaeve's lap. And that's when Egwene can also finally release all of this other stuff that she's been carrying around, and the full emotional weight of what happened to her during the test also sets in. And she joins Elaine just lying in Nynaeve's lap, crying. And Nynaeve hugs both of them and comforts them. And the chapter ends with her telling them, "It eases with time, it eases a little, and one day we will make them pay our price. Hush, hush." So like Nynaeve is still like, "I'll play your game, I'll do your test, I'll come in here and dominate, but I'm going to make you pay for what you've done to us."
Yeah.
And that's the end of the chapter.
There's a lot like you got the Aes Sedai have these traditions everybody was talking about now, but that doesn't make them right. And
No.
Nynaeve and they're and like, fine, you've got your 1,000-year-old traditions, but fuck you. That's not cool what you're doing to us. You're gonna pay
Yes.
for this shit. I'm not accepting your traditions.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Hey, the world is changing.
Yeah, so like another pretty straightforward chapter, right? Like, I mean, whenever they do the accepted test, there's not an awful lot that you can read into the other worlds because they are just that. They're in a whole other dimension or a whole other reality in which other things have played out. So you can't read too much into it. And Egwene is now also accepted and therefore has a lot more freedom to move around and pick her own studies and pick her own work so that she can do the Amyrlin's bidding and try and hunt out the Black Ajah. So I got the sense that when Egwene is shocked and surprised when she's told that she will now go for her test, I certainly see in that decision Swan sort of speeding things along.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care how tired you are, because you can imagine, like, Egwene's been working all day, like she's mentally and physically she's exhausted, and then like, okay, now come do this incredibly difficult test that some people die in.
Hmm.
So Swan is playing a pretty dangerous game, just sort of rushing those things along, and it's actually making life hard for Egwene with people like Elida. I'm sure Fowland is going to have an absolute fucking conniption at the fact that that Egwene is now also
Yeah.
accepted, because a lot of them are novice for like 6 years and then accepted for 6 years and then become Aes Sedai, and that's considered like an average to fast
Yeah.
track. One of the weakest Aes Sedai in the tower at the moment, I think, was an accepted for something like 25 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Just go
Egwene
home.
is racing along, and I mean, Nynaeve is still ahead of her.
Yeah. Shit.
Nynaeve was immediately put in there.
Yeah. Yeah, but Egwene has Swan has an affinity with Egwene. We spoke about this in the last podcast.
Mm.
How they had that little meeting in the study and how she's impressed by her. So I think she knew that Egwene could handle this test, even being dirty and tired and like the middle of the
Swan
night.
is pretty sharp. Yeah,
Yeah.
like she can see. Yep.
Because that's a dangerous. You can die, and just surprising it on her after a long day of work.
I know.
I would have let them have a night's rest, but she doesn't seem to care. I know, like, you got to move things on. There's a Black Ajah to catch. We've got shit to do. But one night, what difference is that going to make?
I know. That's what I mean. Like, she's playing a dangerous game. She's really putting
Yeah.
her foot down on the accelerator in a reckless way.
Yeah. But obviously she has faith in
The
Egwene.
threat is real. Look at the numbers. The stats don't lie.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah. Time is not with them.
No.
Swan also knows, the dragon has proclaimed himself. Tom and Gaidon is coming. We need powerful channelers, and we need to be rid of the Black Ajah. Like, the shit is about to hit the fan.
Yeah.
More so than, like, Elida doesn't know that. Like, a lot of sisters just don't know that. And Swan is trying to operate from the shadows.
Yeah, they're trying to carry on with the status quo and how things were done and spend 6 years as a novice, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is kind of catch-22.
Don't have that time, guys.
Yeah, you can't do it that way anymore, but you can't tell the other Aes Sedai why, because they're going to steal you for supporting this guy as the dragon.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And I mean, the people that are openly in opposition to Swan, like Elida, who doesn't, hide her feelings about Swan or the other Archers at all, is probably thinking we need to capture Rand and keep him shielded until Tom and Gaidon, and then go drop him in the middle of the battlefield and then let him have at it. Like, that's
Good luck,
that's
buddy.
the Red strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nuts. What else? Nothing much, eh?
No.
No,
pretty
not
much.
really.
Like we said before, a lot of meetings in rooms and conversations.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we're just
2 trips to the dungeons.
if we're getting too caught up in every little line, like everything that gets said now, I'm like, ooh, what does that mean? Does it really mean? Does it have a deeper meaning, or am I just so paros now?
Well, that's exactly the state of mind you should be in, Jody, the
Alright,
whole
okay.
time.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
no, I'm not-
Agreed.
Otherwise, we're not sucking the bone dry. You got to get that little bit of marrow out there, and even if it turns out to be a little bit of a hard marrow, you still got to go for it.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh wait, you're vegetarian vegan now.
Yeah,
No marrow for you.
No marrow for you, buddy. It's all for
I'll
me
skip
now.
the marrow. You can have my marrow.
Okay. So, If there's nothing else for that chapter,
Yes. Or no.
have you picked a favorite moment?
Oh, dear God. Billy, you go
You're
first.
nothing if not consistent.
Yes, I do have a
Oh,
favorite moment.
there it
Obviously, I do. I just thought of it now, but it's been my favorite moment in hindsight since the beginning.
Okay, Billy, why don't you tell us yours?
I have two moments there that I had to sort of tear over.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the one that made me feel the best is Matt being back and being Matt.
Yeah.
Even with all these other twisted memories of the past that's with him, is now just up and going, just stubborn as all hell, ready to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Love that guy.
Huge love.
Good old Matt.
Mine's also Matt related, but you go, Joe.
Ah, right. Mine is swirling vortex of air and stone.
Oh, cool.
Yes,
Yeah.
action scene. The only action scene I think that we find here in
Yes.
these 6 chapters.
But it is a good one. I mean, we shouldn't be too greedy with our action scenes because, I mean, as we've said before, in the later books, they are few and far between.
Yeah.
Going to be a lot of talking in rooms.
What's your favorite scene in book 10? Oh, that trudging through the snow for 7 chapters. That was awesome. Yes.
I do remember that even during those books that a lot of readers refer to as the slog, they all end with a bang.
Yeah.
Like, isn't the end of book 10? That's not the bowl of winds. Hey, it could be like the cleansing of
That's
the
9.
male half of the source.
The cleansing is book 9.
And I wonder what 10 was. I'll have to read and find out.
Yes, I suppose. And Moritz, your favorite?
Mine is Matt's flashback to commanding that army. Like, I just
yeah.
I like the scene because, like I said, I like the actual, like the thought put into the tactics, and I like what it represents and what it sort of hints at in terms of Matt's future. Like at Tarman Gaidon, Matt is the general making the plans,
Yeah.
and Lan and Gareth Bryan and Agelmar and Davram Bashir and Rodel Ituralde, like those guys are all going, yes, good plan. Yes, I like this.
Why didn't I think of that?
Tam
Yeah.
is there, like, they're all sort of like, wow, this guy's a genius. Like, this is
Yeah.
excellent. And it's this same Matt that Vinny likes. That's just like a rogue and a
Absolutely.
total joker.
I know how difficult it is to catch wildlife, and if he can catch a badger, I mean, he's got some skills and some tactics.
But can he catch a 5-pound trout?
Not like Moraine.
Ooh, with his bare hands. No. That Matt being a general thing, when we were talking about this, I was reminded of the first time that he pipes up. They were in a tent somewhere planning it, and I think Lan is there. I can't remember who else, but they're looking at a map, and Matt walks over and he points out something on the map.
I remember that.
You remember that scene? That was the
Yeah,
first time that he used it in an actual plan, and everybody was like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
okay, he can actually." That's a good point.
Yes. Oh, he is just such a good character, hey.
Yeah. No beefy boy in this run of chapters. Not even a mention of him.
No, there was 2 mentions of him. The one mention was when Leandrin was forcing Matt to blush in a little visit. Lanfear, not Leandrin. Lanfear made him blush, and he's like, "Oh, wish Perrin or Ranwy know
yes.
what to do with women."
Okay. Same shit.
That old
And
chestnut.
the other one was where Egwene decked one of the Aes Sedai in there where she rescued Ran at the last portal. And she's so thankful that Perrin taught her how to do this, but she was really upset that he never told her how much it's going to hurt her hand.
Yeah.
All right. Well done.
So
buddy.
Beefy
Holy
Boy
shit,
had
that's
two mentions.
Beefy boy.
Nice, yes.
All right,
Very
sweet.
good recollection. I had one honorable mention, and that is Matt's interactions with Lanfear and Swan. Like, just how sort of like he isn't quite cocky, but he is very irreverent. Like he's not showing them any real kind of respect. He's just cautious around them. That's all.
But that's the same with all 3 boys. Like nobody gives a shit.
It's true, hey. They really should step in line.
Those Aes Sedai, yes, they should.
Someone needs to yank them by the collar. Okay, so to our listeners, send your favorite moments into our Twitter account at Blood and Ash Pod, or any of the social media links in our episode description. send in not only your favorite moments, but any kind of corrections or callbacks or theories or anything that you think is relevant to the material. And we will read that stuff out on the air. We are always really keen to get the interactions from the crowd and extend our crazy theorizing and pontificating to the wider audience, and include everyone else in that.
With a lot of pedantry.
Yes, your opinions may be subject to my pedantry. So
Disclaimer.
Yes.
You have to tick a little box at the end after sending in your ideas.
Yeah. Next time we'll cover chapters 24 through 29. So that is Scouting and Discoveries to A Trap to Spring. Now, Jody, tell me, is Matt's quarterstaff scene in this next stretch?
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Read and find out.
It is there in all its magnificent glory.
Oh, fantastic. I can't wait to read your favorite moment of the series.
That I can remember.
True.
That's a little footnote.
Yeah. All right then. Well, with that happy note, I will bid you both a fond adieu and see everyone next time.
Goodbye, everybody.
Cheers.